Hey there, beautiful souls. I'm Colynn
And I'm Meridee.
and welcome to Spiritual Sisters with Sass, the podcast where two sisters with a passion for spirituality and a touch of sass come together to explore the exciting world of self-improvement.
That's right, Colynn. We embarked on this incredible journey together, diving into different self-improvement techniques, yoga practices, and a whole array of life experiences.
Yeah, and through it all, we've managed to create lives that are abundant, happy, and constantly evolving. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it, Meridee?
You bet, sis. We've got two very different perspectives on life, but that's what makes this podcast so special. I'm all about diving in head first into life's adventures and embracing every challenge with a bit of sass. While Colynn here, she's got her own unique approach.
Yep, that's me. And I'm all about the yoga, mindfulness, and finding my zen. And together we make the perfect balance.
So whether you're looking for some wisdom, a few laughs, or just some heartfelt stories, you're in the right place. We're here to share our personal experiences and insights with you, all while exploring the wild and diverse world of self-improvement.
So grab your headphones and get ready for a fantastic journey with us. Spiritual Sisters with Sass is here to uplift, inspire, and keep it real.
Thanks for tuning in, lovely listeners. Let's dive in.
Spirit and sass. Here we go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Spiritual Sisters with Sass. Today, we are going to get right into it, and we are going to talk about letting go. We're going to talk about the challenges and the action steps that you can take to get started, because what is happening?
We have to start again because
you're not on a microphone. That's okay. I need to shut my window because they're like doing something.
Let's do that.
They're like cutting cement outside today, and it's just so loud.
I can't hear you. Hold on, because I just plugged it in.
Sorry, guys.
External,
We snow. Today we
and
snow.
then I need MacBook Air speakers. And then I need to turn, hold on. Do this.
Moment.
Turn you up. Oh, it says it's full. Okay, and then where the fuck? It's my AirPod case.
It's one of those days, y'all.
It's just one of them days.
It's just one of those days where you don't want to wake up. Everything is fucked. Everybody sucks.
Okay, all right, start again.
Okay, are we ready now? Okay.
Yes.
Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of Spiritual Sisters with Sass. Today, we are going to talk about letting go. We're going to give you some actionable steps that you can take, though letting go really is actually a process of not doing. And I think that's the hardest part about letting go. And Lynn and I were talking prior to the podcast just about our attachments to things and about how we end up in places that we don't necessarily want to be because of our attachment to something, or how we end up with something we didn't want because of how attached we are to something else. So let's go ahead and get started. You read me something that I think would be great for us to start with, and then we can kind of just get into it.
Okay. I was looking up the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, right? So kind of the Bible of yoga, literally has all the answers. Literally anything that anybody's teaching right now, it's all fucking yoga. I'm just sharing that. The more that I hear, like our coach the other day was talking about, like, he's like, yeah, I've done yoga like once, like I liked it. And it's like, dude, you don't even know, but what you're coaching is yoga. Like the yoga isn't just the asana. So and at the beginning of book 2 within the sutras, it starts the reason that we suffer. And we've talked about this before. It's the 5 kleshas. So there's 5 reasons that you suffer. And the very first reason is that you basically are ignorant And it's that you're ignorant to who like you truly are, like who your true self is. And so if you don't know who you truly are, then you will misidentify as whatever you can, right?
Your
So
body, your ego.
yeah,
Yeah.
mainly your ego, but that your ego, I say, is your nervous system, and so your nervous system is in your body. And so, you know, and then there's labels like good and bad and all of these things. So of course we're going to suffer if we forget that. I mean, the essential idea is like, who are you truly? Well, you are God. So if you don't know that you're God and you're perfect and you're amazing just as you are, then you will identify as not perfect and not amazing,
Which then starts the suffering,
right? And
right?
then
That I'm not enough. That
totally.
trauma in all of us is us attaching to not knowing who we are.
And that's it. So then if you misidentify as ego because you don't know who you truly are, that's because then you will attach. And the attachment is basically to feeling good, right? And the aversion is like of the avoiding of feeling bad. And that's what most people do. Is if we break down like our stories of even being a child, right? Like my people pleasing is an attachment to feeling good because I want people to like me, because when they don't like me, I feel bad. Right? It's fucking crazy. So then if we have attachment and aversion, then the last piece of suffering is fear. Essentially, that fear comes down to the fear of death. And the way that we figure that out is if I ask you, like, what are you afraid of? And you say that you're afraid of being broke. And I say, why are you afraid of being broke? Like, what's the problem with that? Then you can't live in a house, right? And if you can't live in a house, then you live on the streets. Well, so what if you live on the streets? Lots of people live on the streets, right? Well, then, I mean, what do people on the streets do? They're drug addicts. So then you'll become a drug addict. So what's wrong with being a drug addict, right? Well, you'll die. Essentially, the root of all of our fear is the fear of death. Even though we make it look like it's not death, it's a bunch of other things. I can get you back to like, and then I die.
Yeah. Yeah. Just keep digging.
Yeah. So essentially, like the attachment is a huge cause of our suffering. I mean, the answer was in the book of like, how is it that we then stop suffering? How do we just let go? How do you let go?
Right? It's literally like this. For me, I have to say that I'm 44 and I didn't even have that moment until DMT. Like we had this conversation around how do I let go of basically my anger and frustration with my own mother. Especially because when you're not blaming and taking your own responsibility around things, how do you let go of the anger and frustration, pain, hurt? And I'll tell you that there's times that I'm like, I don't know how to let go. And so going through some stuff with my daughter and her making choices that maybe I don't agree with has that right there, you guys, for me, I've realized in this last little bit that like I have multiple businesses, and I always say, like, when it comes to my businesses, yeah, things will happen, but I don't really feel stressed about them. And it's because we have one of two mindsets. So we either have a victim mindset where all these horrible things are happening to me and we're making excuses, or we have an empowered mindset that we start looking for solutions. Within my business, I instantly go to solutions. I can find solutions, even if they're not solutions in the moment. Maybe I try them and they fail, but at least I've tried something. At least I've taken some steps, have solutions. I'm moving forward, finding out that even that this solution didn't work is still a solution because now I know that doesn't work. So within that, my solution-based mindset allows me to, have an empowered mindset because now I'm doing something about it. And then it comes to my children. And suddenly I'm like, they're the one thing that can take me down. They're the one thing that stresses me out. Yeah, because I have zero control over what they're going to do, how they're going to act, what actions they're going to take, or the outcome that is in their life. And all we want is for our children to be happy, at peace, loved. But also, who the fuck am I to take any of these experiences away from them? Right? Who am I to take away an experience that my daughter might need Maybe she needs to date a narcissist. Maybe she needs to be hurt in order to truly change whatever it is that's going inside her. And who am I to take that from her? So in that, how do I now let go of my attachment to her outcome? Right? Because that's something that we all do, no matter how awesome of a parent we are. You love your kids. And when you love your kids, you want what's best for them. So how do I let go of what she's doing and be unattached to her outcome? There's a few things for me, that steps that I've taken. One, I'm learning I don't have to disconnect from her in order to let her go. So her and I can still have this super close relationship while she's making those decisions. But in order to do that, I have to accept that she's chosen this. I have to accept that she's an adult. I have to accept that I have done all that I can while raising them and given them the skills and tools that hopefully they're going to use that will get them out of situations if they end up in them. So I can't take away anything from her. I need to accept. So that's always going to be my first thing is, okay, I understand what's happening. And now I accept that this is what it is. And that's it. I don't have a choice now. My next thing is understanding where I stand in it. So I've accepted that she's making these decisions, and I need to understand that my opinions are just that. Yes, I may have experiences, and yes, I may have feedback that's going to help them with it, but that's not going to change her outcome. So I understand that my role is to be here as a supporter while she makes the decision she's going to make. And I know for you that I've learned so much from you because your daughter and what she's going through, and like her dad is not speaking to her very much at all because of decisions she's made. I understand how our anger and frustration can then impact our children, but I don't want to have a conditional love around my children. So again, I accept what she's doing. I understand where my role is in this. What's the next part that I can do? I need to focus on me. My children both currently living with me because of me getting them. I mean, we all had agreements made so that we could come into this, and both my kids living in the yard or in the house, so that they can save some money so that when they move into the house, they're better set in life, because who doesn't want to help to get their kids ahead? So that's a choice that I've made. And now we're all living in the same house, and now I have to see everything that's going on all the time. Now I have really strong opinions about what's going on, because when you're being dropped off, when you're being picked up, if you're being sneaky, are you lying to me? You don't live with me. I'm not seeing everything that's going on. So I don't feel like I need to be as involved. So I need to focus on me instead of them. And for me, that comes back to Byron Katie, who always says, like, if you're not in your business, who is? Because if you're in everyone else's business, you're not in your own. My daughter's business isn't my goddamn business. So reminding myself to step back into my own and focus on me. So what can I do? These 3 things alone have already changed it for me. I'm no longer attached to her outcome, because her outcome is that her mom's going to be there for her when and if anything goes on. And that's the only outcome that I need to be attached to, because it's the only outcome I have any control over. So that's how I'm letting go of this situation. I think that it would be really awesome if you could share with us, because like I said, I've learned so much from you with your daughter's situation, because so many people are so attached to her situation, even though it's her situation and her situation alone. So I'd love for you to share with us how you have moved through this, because the only reason I'm where I am is because of you going through what you've gone through for the last 2 years.
The answer is always yoga.
Yep, it is.
Literally, it's the only answer that I think the answers are in yoga. And there's a book called The Yamas and the Niyamas by Deborah Adele. And
Yeah.
the yamas it's the first limb of yoga. And literally the answer in the sutras is like, if you want to, here it says, by sustained practice of all component parts of yoga, the impurities dwindle away and wisdom's radiant light shines forth with discriminative knowledge. Like, it's telling you.
Okay, so let's put that into layman's terms.
If you do yoga, all of the parts of yoga, then all the impurities, so all the bullshit dwindles away, and you can see the situation for what it truly is, right? That's actually Don Miguel Ruiz's The Fifth Agreement, is he talks about like what's actually the truth, because what we share as the truth isn't the truth, it's
Your
our
story, my
truth.
story, and the middle is the truth.
Yes.
For sure.
So here it's telling you like that discriminative knowledge is knowing like what the actual truth is and then what the bullshit is around it. So Deborah Adele says, we're like within the yamas, those are like 5 practices that help us to show up, like things to not do, basically, to show up and have a meaningful and purposeful life. Okay. And the first one is to not be violent. Period. Like, and there's a lot of ways that we're violent. So worry is another way that violence gets masked as caring. Worry is a lack of faith in the other and cannot exist simultaneously with love. Either we have faith in the other person to do their best, or we don't.
Ugh.
Worry says, Worry says, I don't trust you to do your life right.
Dude.
Worry comes from a place of ignorance that I know better what should be happening in your life.
Mind your own fucking business. That's what that says.
Worry says, I don't trust your journey or your answers or your timing. Worry is fear that hasn't grown up yet. It is a misuse of our imagination, and we both devalue and insult others when we worry about them. I mean, you talk about my daughter, let's just talk about my daughter 5 years ago. Not just the last little while. Like I, at some point, just like learned to trust my children. Like also Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, he said, you know, you had your children, but they're not yours. And that was very like, oh, that's right. These human beings in which I am also one, in which I also have a mother that I was born through, that I do not belong to.
She doesn't control me.
Right?
Yes.
So I started thinking about like the energy that I send to my child. If I'm worrying, that's just negative energy that she's a fucking idiot and can't figure it out. And if I've gone through all of the things that I've gone through in my life and I've come to this place of understanding, then I understand that my child needs to go through a bunch of her own shit too, because I had a mother-in-law when I was young. I was 19, and my husband's mom, or my boyfriend at the time, his mom was very involved in my life, and she would constantly tell me what not to do. And I'd be like, you're old, you don't fucking know anything. And I'd go do the thing. Now, I've always been self-aware. I think it's because we did so much acid when we were teenagers. Just throw that out there. But like, I remember going back to her and being like, you were right. You were right. But then she would tell me something else, like, don't do this. And I'd be like, you're fucking old. You don't get it. And then I'd go do the thing. And then I'd be like, oh, you were right. Like,
yeah, Dad was that person for me and she was that person for you, for sure.
Right. And so it doesn't matter like from someone else's experience, because she went through all the same shit as I did, or different, but like, you know what I mean?
Different, but outcome. Yep.
And I didn't trust her to like know better than me. So why would my kids trust me to know better than them? Like they just think I'm an old idiot that doesn't know anything. That's stupid, right? Because it's not my.
But also
still
saying the things because they still need to know. Like for me, anyways, when Dad would say the things, he'd be like, "If you go down this road, this is where you're going to end up. But if you go this way, it's going to be different." If I had gone this way in the first place, I wouldn't have had to make this mistake. Now, I am the person who learns from people's mistakes. So as I started heading down that road and things started to like literally, fuck, Dad said that shit. Oh no, goddamn. I would stop before I got to the end of that road. I didn't need to experience the entire thing. I was seeing that what he said was true, and I would like have a total detour and go get on the path he told me to get on. Then I'd go home and be like, you were right. So I feel like saying the things is also helpful, but at the same time, my kids will choose whether or not to hear me. And that comes down to if you really look at it, when you go back to that, they're my kids, but I don't own them. The thing there for me is right from when they're born, you don't own them. Because if they choose to listen to you, that's a choice they're making. That's not you. You didn't control that outcome. You didn't do, none of this actually has to do with you. So they're their own person and they make a choice. It's funny because that's also something my kids will say, like their friends, they'll be like, oh, my dad was so strict. And Brooke's like, bullshit. And they were like, well, yeah, my dad would take my phone away. And Brooke would be like, and he'd say, what, for how long? And, you know, her best friend would be like, oh, well, he would say that I'd lose my phone for a week. And Brooke would be like, and how long did you lose your phone for? And she'd be like, you know, like 3 days. And Brooke's like, if my mom said I was losing my phone for a week, I lost my phone for a week. And if she said I was grounded, I wasn't just grounded to the house. There was no TV, there was no toys, there was no video games. Like, and when she said it, it stuck. So when I knew what consequences were in front of me, I would make different decisions. So with Brooke now, we'll have a conversation and I'll say to her, like, the consequences aren't going to be mine, they're going to be the universe's. But what I've seen is, and in some ways, she'll even say to me, like, I already know what your opinion's going to be and I don't need to hear it. So sometimes I'm like, I'm just shut the fuck up. And other times I know you don't want to hear it, but I just need to lay it out there so you see it. So if you start going down that road and it happens, you can choose different. And my kids both have gotten to the point where they're kind of like, I appreciate the feedback and now I'm going to go down the road I'm going down. And I'm like, okay. And one of the things that I will never do is I fucking told you so. Because when I heard that, all I wanted to do was punch you in the face, give you the finger, and not have a relationship with you. So I won't do it to my own kids. So if the outcome of what's going on with her right now shows up the way that I said that it would, great. Guess what? I'm here for you and I'll help you find the right path.
Yeah, you have to trust her journey.
Not just that, but you said something too about how basically you're like telling them that you don't trust them without so much as saying it, just because you're worrying. Tell me that you didn't feel that exact thing. Like when Brooke and I were talking about it, she's like, basically, you're telling me I'm not smart enough to do this. And I was like, those words didn't come out of my mouth. She's like, no, but the things that did implied that. And I was like, no, they didn't. Yes, they did. Yeah, they did. Because I'm telling you that I don't trust your, and I mean, in so many ways, I think, and I've told her this, I think it's not that I don't trust you, it's that I didn't trust myself. And even still to this day, knowing, you know, love, my own decisions based around love, things like that, that I didn't trust myself. And I don't even know if I do trust myself when it comes to love. So it's not that I don't trust you, it's that I don't trust myself. And now I'm projecting that onto you.
And that you have attachments to certain outcomes of your child. So we talked about that as well. Like you have an idea of what you want for your children.
Yeah.
And I do hear the bypassing when you say you on the conversation, when you love your children and so you want the best for them. That's
for sure, I do.
And therefore, sometimes when you want the best for your children, you end up manipulating the situation or not liking what they're doing, and then you will brush it off as it's caring. And it's violence. It really is. So the idea is that, like, we have our children. I had my children and I had an idea of, like, what's a good child, what's a good mom, what's a good outcome, and what's success, right? So I know what was planted to me through Disney princesses, and that's like happily ever after, and everything looks amazing. And now the other day I sat down and I decided that, you know, that really has made it so that I'm in my fourth major relationship. And when things get tough, that I actually just want to get the fuck out of here. Because
I feel like we all have that kind of attitude in so many ways.
Beautiful and perfect. Like fucking Prince Charming is just like kissing my ass all the time. And that in my head has been like that. There's this romantic, amazing love that happens. And while that is happening, it doesn't look like I had expected it to or been attached to in the outcome. And so you have had attachments of your relationship with your daughter. And what that looks like based on your own bullshit in your own life. And therefore, when it doesn't happen, then what we see is that, like, it's bad.
Disappointment.
And that's unfortunate because then what happens is we in general start to put our own like expectations and attachments onto people that are doing just the best that they can. It
Yes.
creates trauma.
Yeah.
And so that way, you know, whatever happens, like my daughter has struggled with mental health issues, right? Or mental illness, whatever you want to look at. Like there's such a stigma around it that if my daughter is mentally ill, then I have done something wrong.
This has been so huge in your helping me to get through this as well, because there's very much the potential that mine also has mental health issues. And we are very aware that our mother has mental health issues. And I'll even be totally honest and say that I know for sure if I'm not on some kind of medication, I have at least a mood disorder of some sort. Some sort. I don't know. Me being on an antidepressant, I feel like I have control. I feel like I'm the person I want to be when I'm not on it. I feel like I'm someone else and it's
Like
not someone
brings
I
a
like.
ceiling on your emotions, right? Where things aren't so out of control, it allows it to
Yeah.
kind of be contained a little bit. So it isn't that funny that we can just like, even if we're suffering from our own bullshit, our own mental illness, we can still think of ourselves as good or bad based on the outcome of our children
Yes.
who really, I mean, like, bar the fact that we had them and then we shared with them some insights that we don't really get to control their outcome, yet here we are just like hanging on that, like taking everything so personally that if they're not
Yep.
good, you know, I was teaching a teacher training one time and my kids like get along, but they don't really get along and they fucking never have. And I have done my best. Like I get along with my fucking siblings. And I demonstrated that. Like, yeah, we fight, but that's life, in my opinion. So then I have these two kids that fucking fight, and they're adults now, and they still fucking fight. Like they
And we
still
didn't, we may have fought like that as kids, but we didn't fight like that as adults.
it just is what it is, I think. And I remember
Mhm.
sitting at teacher training and my co-facilitator asked one of the women if her children got along. She had two sons. And she said, "Yeah, they get along so well. They're like best friends." And she said, "Oh, good job, mama." And I immediately took offense to that because I have found myself to do the best job that I can as a mother with the tools that I'm equipped with. And to hear that it's all on the parent if the kids are going to get along. So, yay for the parent that has the kids that get along. But now that means that there's something wrong with me because my kids don't get along. Like they do, but they don't. They're not as close as like I would like them to be. As I think you have a sister that's your best friend in the whole entire world that's always going to have your back. And
Yep.
they don't, I mean, they kind of, but
That's
they
not,
don't. Like they
yeah.
get pissed off at each other and don't talk to each other for months. So, like, shit, dude. And they fight when they are
And
getting
we've only,
along.
and for us, we've only done that one time, I think. Two
Mhm.
times we had major blowouts. Other
But
than
like,
that, we've always figured it out.
what does that even say? That has nothing to do with our parents, I don't
No,
think.
no, I think it has to do with our own personalities too.
Yes.
It really has nothing to do with anyone except ourselves. So for them, it's about the two of them and whether they clash or whether they mesh.
Right. So now we get the opportunity to not take responsibility for how our children are, and I don't want to say turned out because they don't turn out. Like they're going to grow and evolve for the rest of our lives. But like if we take responsibility for the way that they are in the world, showing up in the world, then that
Good
means
or bad.
we take both. And
Yes.
so, you know, we talked about that a little bit as well, because you have like you have some pride on some behaviors from one child and then some not so much pride from behaviors of another
Yes.
child. And I had said, like, you have to accept your daughter exactly how she is. It's not fair. Like now she's not enough or not good enough. And it's like, oh, wait.
Yes. Big time. Because
And
then I'm suddenly taking responsibility for her being anything at all. And I'm taking responsibility. And I said that to you, I was like, holy shit, I totally take responsibility for like well, Caden, I taught you that. Well, I taught you that.
Right.
Well, if I take responsibility for that, then I absolutely have to take responsibility for Brooke maybe having a mental health illness, or take responsibility for Brooke being, say, selfish, or her being the most giving person in the world who gets walked all over. Like, suddenly I have to take responsibility for all of the things.
It's
And
a lot to
she
hold.
chose, yeah, and she has made the choice as to who she's going to become and what she's going to become. And a lot of us, especially in our early 20s, are completely unconscious. So the way we show up in the world, the person that we're becoming, we're not even aware of the fact that we are doing those things. So how can someone take responsibility for that? I can't take responsibility for anyone else.
And how would you like it, like, now as an adult, that both of our parents take responsibility for who we are? Yeah, I raised her. So fucking what? That means I made absolutely no choice in my whole entire life to be where I am right now. It's all because of you when I was a
Yeah.
kid. So then
Yeah.
that looks at the other side of things as well, is that what I hear a lot, especially as an adult, is like, okay, great. People are awakening and they're becoming aware that the patterns they have now were ingrained when they were little children.
Yes.
But that's not a fucking excuse any longer. Like, you're
It's a
40.
responsibility. And literally when they say you have to unlearn everything you've learned, I feel like that's essentially what it is right there. Is I taught my kids a bunch of shit that they have to unlearn in order to become the people that they want to be in the first place. I may have given them some great tidbits, like teaching my children budgets and money and things like that. Like, there's some tidbits I've given you, but what you do with that goddamn information is up to you.
Right. They're either going to do it or
So,
not do it.
yes.
So you have to take responsibility for either or
Both.
neither,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
the idea. So when we recognize that patterns that we developed as a part of experiencing our childhood, it also means that we don't need to keep doing that. When I was a kid, this is what happened. Okay, cool. Now we're in our 40s and in a relationship. I don't want to hear about what your mom did to you anymore, or how I'm like your mom. I want to hear what we're going to do to, like, just be
Fix the
independent,
problem.
sovereign ass beings together in a relationship, choosing to stay every single day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Again,
giving
problem
my
solving or victim. And there it is right there. So I'm the victim of, what my mom did to me, or I'm the empowered person who's going to take action to make change.
This is what just happened for me, right? In a situation in which I've been conversing with someone, I am seeing a couple different things. First and foremost, how I want to be heard, even though I'm very aware this person will never, well, I can't say that, but likely 99%, most likely, based on past experience, not hear me. So why do I keep trying to waste my breath? And this is a pattern I see repeating over and over again. I'm not sure why. I need to sit with it a little bit more, because it's not like I've tried to get people to see things since I was a little kid, but maybe I did. But the reality is that there was a time that before a session that I just had, was like, this person needs to see it from another perspective. And I can help them, because I can help them to see that they're being a fucking narcissist. I have proof of it, like, recorded. I have conversations, like, it's fucking clear, and I know I'm not the only one who fucking thinks it. And then after a session, being like, what is it that I want to get from this? Because do I want to be right, or do I want to come to a solution? Because if I keep trying to be right, then we're just going to keep fucking fighting, and that person's not going to hear me. They're not going to change just because I have an idea that the way they're behaving is fucked up.
Yeah.
In fact, if I tell them, they're going to tell me that I'm fucked up and that the way I'm behaving is fucked up. What's the truth? When we look at, like, what's the truth, which is a hard thing, I think, for people to understand, because they think their truth is the truth. What's the truth? Even in this situation I'm talking about with this person, the truth is that there are two people that when they talk to each other, don't listen to each other, and therefore don't come to an amicable solution. That's the truth.
Yeah.
My truth is he's an asshole. His truth is I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
And the truth is that we just keep like, I mean, fighting isn't even a truth.
The truth is that
Arguing-
you have different places that you want to end up.
Yeah.
And you can't find common ground because you're not hearing what the other person wants. You're just pushing what you want onto the other person.
Exactly. So how do we come to a solution? Well, first and foremost, I have to let go of being right. And that can be really, really hard. I think for
Really
most
hard.
people, because people will live their whole life fucking fighting.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I'm not, to be honest, in this person's eyes, I feel confident in saying that I will never be right in this person's eyes. But never is a big word. So I probably will likely never be right in this person's eyes. So
Yeah.
I have to stop trying to get him to see things the way I need him to see them.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to see them his ways. Like, honestly, when I look at this person and what they want in life and what they exude and how they're behaving, like their actions and like what their old Instagram was like, it's fucking gross to me. I'm not interested in listening to this person either.
And therefore, is he feeling the same about you? Are they,
Yeah.
feeling the same about you?
I would 100% say for sure that he thinks I'm an idiot. He basically said that the other day. Like, I'm an idiot and so is everyone I know. So how am I going to move forward with that? I have to let go of being right. And I come from love. What would love do?
Yep. And that comes down to too, like when it comes to, like the whole not being right, can I be the villain in someone else's story and not need to prove that I'm not? Like for me, that's a big thing because even say with my kids, if I'm the villain in, say, Brooke's story to her friends about the situation that she's in that I don't agree with, and she goes to her friends and is like, my mom is so awful. So awful. She's such a bitch. Okay. And if her friends choose to also believe that, especially because her friends have spent so much time with us, it's interesting because, of course, my daughter surrounds herself with people and then these people are surrounded by us. So, like, even when she has said it, she's come home and been like, oh my God, I was so mad at you and I was yelling, telling Hannah all about you and how awful you were. And then Hannah's like, but is she? Because really your mom loves you and most of the time you take her advice. And then Brooke's like, shut up, I don't want to talk about that part of it right now. So, like I can be the villain because whatever is meant to be and whatever the outcome is going to be is the one that's going to arrive no matter what. So whether that means that I stay the villain because, her best friend says, yeah, she's awful, or I'm not the villain and Brooke comes around because, I've only ever seen your mom look out for you. Either way, the outcome is whatever the outcome is going to be. And I don't get a choice in what that outcome is going to be.
So essentially, that's what came up because when we started, I was like, what does the sutras have to say about this? Because attachment, again, is one of our main causes of suffering. And it continues to say, like, if we don't see this, then we will have pain. Like pain in all actions result in only pain. The pain can arise as a direct consequence of an action or as anguish from unfulfilled desires or torment from the unwanted or as a subliminal impression. Pain can also arise as conflict, like also have to do with the nature forces of desire, and the suffering from pain that has not yet arisen is avoidable. So the book says, the sutras say, the cause of that avoidable pain is the illusory union of the seer with the seen, so that one does not possess discriminative knowledge of the true self. What does that mean, right? Let's talk terms. So the cause of the pain that we have, the suffering that we have, is because we have misidentified, right? There's a part of us inside of us, the true self, and it sees but that's it. It's the impartial witness that sees all that's going on, but it doesn't act, right?
Mhm.
The ego acts. This is manifestation. So when we misidentify as the body, the scene, all the things happening, our children not being good enough, our partners not being good enough, then we have pain because we're misidentifying as all of these things. So we have to come back to the seer, and the seer knows that it comes from a place of love. The seer doesn't do anything. The impartial witness is fucking impartial. That means that you
Watches.
get to live your life any way you want to.
Yep.
Anyway,
And
and then it doesn't affect me because
yes.
I've given the idea, the comparison of like being a mountain. You know, a mountain is way up there and it's constantly riddled by snow, rain, cold, winds, like, and beautiful sun,
Sun, heat. Yep.
you
Yeah,
know,
all
like
the things.
all of the things, but nothing changes really on the mountain. Sure, okay, eventually we've got like the freezing and the thawing of water that could eventually break a piece off the mountain, but the mountain itself, it doesn't change. It witnesses storms. Why do we always feel like we have to do instead of be? And you said that right in the beginning, is like, how do you let go? And let going isn't doing anything, it's surrendering.
Yes.
Let go.
And there are some action steps you can take to contribute to you letting go, but those action steps aren't even actually action, they're thought steps, they're mindset pieces. And it's so funny because when we started this conversation, Lynn's like looking around and I'm like, what are you looking for? And she's like, just a book. Hang on, I'm going to get my yoga book. And so officially yoga podcast here. She literally went into, oh, hang on. Oh, there she is. So she, oh, okay. So the different steps that you go through to let go, because there's stages to letting go, is first of all ambivalence, then denial that it's not happening, anger and resentment, bargaining and negotiation. And tell me that this didn't all happen within these conversations with my daughter, because as I read them, I was like, oh my God. Depression and sadness, acceptance and healing, growth and moving on. There we go. She's having some internet issues, guys. And so within it, like the denial and shock, why would she lie to me? Why would she do this? Anger that she's doing it, frustration that she's making these decisions. Bargaining negotiation is me trying to convince her to change her fucking mind. Depression and sadness because she's making these choices and I don't get to have a say in it. Acceptance and healing, understanding she's going to do this no matter what. And then growth and moving on is where I'm letting go, but I'm having to grow as a human being in order to have unconditional love for my daughter while she makes decisions that I don't agree with. So there's going to be stages that you're going to go through in order to process. And it's okay to have all of the stages. In fact, as you're having the stages, acknowledge the stage. Okay, so I'm going to be moving to the next stage soon, which is great because soon I'm actually going to let this go. But again, we have to move through the stages and then you have to almost do nothing to allow it to go. And what I'm really seeing in this is it comes back to us. Again, I need to come back to me.
That's the hugest piece, is like, here's why you suffer, right?
Hi, Tamara. I see you. Okay.
Okay.
She's back. Okay, we're back.
Here's the reasons why we suffer. We talked about them. So how do we stop suffering? Go back to who you truly are. Stop being ignorant. You're God. You're taking care of. All of this is just bullshit. And so
Faith.
Self-love.
Faith and faith.
Coming back to recognizing that the true self within you is nothing but love. You're completely taken care of and you're perfect just as you are. Nothing's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think yoga, and we're going to be doing
the answer to everything is yoga,
the answer is
motherfucker.
always yoga. And to be honest, right now we're starting to set up for a hybrid yoga teacher training, which we're going to do.
I would recommend do it if you guys can. It was
Right?
amazing. I learned a lot about myself in it, and that was the only reason I even took it. I have no intention of teaching the asanas. I did it because I wanted to learn about myself, and holy shit, did I ever.
Which is what more than half of people taking teacher training right now are learning, is like the immense power of actually, like in the book, it tells you, here's how you go through it. There's 8 limbs to yoga. Practice these things and you will find peace and meaning in your life. You will feel like your life has purpose. So we're doing this, and we'll be doing the week-long portion, the in-person portion in Canada. So, I mean, it works really well.
Yeah.
You want to know how to do this? I mean, yes, there's stages, there's always stages, but it really means showing up for yourself, allowing yourself to move through the emotions, and knowing that everything that's going on is not wrong. How can you
Yes.
be a little more kind and loving with yourself? And when you're more kind and loving with yourself, you're more kind and loving with everybody
Everyone.
else.
Yeah. How you do anything is how you do everything. And then sitting with your feelings is how you're going to move through them.
Yeah.
So I think that's such a great place to stop.
Yeah,
I think
me
this was a
too.
really great podcast, and we appreciate you guys all joining us.
Yeah.
We appreciate the loyal listeners. I know we have at least at least 10 to 12 like consistent every week downloads. So we appreciate you. We hope that we are providing some information that really helps you guys grow. I do get a lot of feedback from people saying like, wow, your content and the conversations that you and your sister have helped me understand some things. So we're going to keep doing what we're doing. And, maybe one day we'll be like Jay Shetty.
Yeah. All right. Sweet. Thanks, Meridee. Thanks everyone for coming, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on this spirited journey today.
We hope you enjoyed diving into the world of self-improvement with us. 2 sisters who found their own unique paths.
Remember, life is a tapestry of experiences, and it's how we embrace them that makes all the difference.
So whether you're on your yoga mat, exploring mindfulness, or simply navigating life's twists and turns, always keep that spirit and sass alive.
We are Colynn and Meridee Lockoff, and we're here to remind you that happiness and abundance are within reach.
Stay connected with us on social media and keep those questions and stories coming. We love hearing from you.
Until next time, beautiful souls, keep doing the work, keep sharing your experiences, and keep living a life that's authentically you.
And never forget to add a little extra sass to your day.
Spirit and sass, always.